Your data is leaving your network right now, not because your systems are down, not because your files are locked, not because you see a ransom screen. No, this isn't like any of that, but because you don't know it's happening. Most organizations don't discover data theft until weeks, sometimes months later. And by the time they do, the damage is already done. Customer records, employee information, emails, financial data, quietly copied, quietly sent out, and quietly sold. This is data exfiltration, one of the most dangerous cyber threats today because it doesn't break systems. It steals from them. So let's slow this down and walk through exactly how this happens and what it looks like early on, the signs people miss, and how it's actually stopped. Let's start at the beginning. What is data exfiltration really? Data exfiltration is the unauthorized movement of data out of an organization's environment. Not destruction, not encryption, just movement. That data can include information like employee records, client information, emails, contracts, financial documents, or credentials. And the key difference between exfiltration and other cyber attacks is this. The attacker wants time, not attention. They don't want alarms, they don't want outages, they want access that lasts long enough to take whatever matters. And the best way to understand this is through an example. Let's start with Bob. Bob gets an email. It looks professional, well written, personal. It says things like, "Hi Bob, I'm working on a book and would love to include your life story. I put the draft in a PDF, just click on it and sign into Microsoft to view it." Bob clicks the link. Now, for the sake of argument, this is pretty easy and everyone will pick it up, but we're just using it as an example. The page looks exactly like Microsoft's login screen, same logo, same color, same layout. Bob types in his email, then his password. At the moment he clicks sign in, that's the breach. Because Bob didn't log into Microsoft, he logged into the attacker. And now that attacker has Bob's credentials. From here, everything unfolds step by step. The attacker immediately tests Bob's logins to see his emails on his own devices. If there's no MFA, they're in. If there is MFA, they may have to trigger a push and hope Bob clicks approve without thinking or accidentally. Once they're in, they don't steal data yet. They set up persistence, they create hidden mailbox rules, forward certain emails, hide security alerts, auto-delete data warnings. This ensures they stay informed. Even if Bob changes his password later, now they start exploring. They search Bob's mailbox for keywords like passwords, invoices, wires, HR, payroll, contract, confidential. They look at Bob's sent emails, his contacts, his calendar. They're learning the environment. Once the attacker understands Bob's role, they look at what Bob can access. Because Bob's email is tied to Microsoft 360, that often means access to OneDrive, SharePoint, Teams files, shared mailboxes, and sometimes internal applications. The attacker doesn't download everything. That would be very obvious. Instead, they move slowly. They open files without editing them, they browse folders without downloading, they sync a few documents at a time, they might share files externally using links, sync data to a device they control, email small batches of files out, or copy data into cloud storage. Things that look legitimate. Nothing breaks, Bob keeps working, emails are still arriving, files still open, things work just fine. From the outside, everything looks completely normal. But data is leaving quietly. Early warning signs exist, but they're subtle. Things like logins from unfamiliar locations, access at unusual hours, accounts opening files they've never touched before, email rules being created without explanation. You might see increased outbound traffic late at night or on weekends, or repeated login failures followed by a successful login. Individually, these don't always trigger alarms, but together they are usually a very clear story. The problem is most environments aren't watching behavior, they're only watching crashes. And as exfiltration continues, the symptoms become harder to ignore. Bandwidth usage increases, cloud storage usage spikes, audit logs show unfamiliar access patterns, users report missing emails or strange forwarding behavior, security alerts start appearing. At this point, the attacker's already taken what they came for. The focus is now prevention. It's damage control. Stopping exfiltration starts with visibility. First, access is identified and cut off. Compromised credentials are reset. Active sessions are revoked. Mailbox rules are removed. Tokens are invalidated. Malware is isolated if present. Next, outbound traffic is analyzed to determine what data left and where it went. Permissions are reviewed and reduced. Logging is tightened, monitoring is improved. And depending on what data is involved, legal and compliance steps may follow. Here's the most important part. Fixing this incident isn't enough. The gaps that allowed it to happen must be closed or it will happen again. Preventing data exfiltration is about detecting abnormal behavior early. That means monitoring logins, email activity, file access, cloud usage, and outbound traffic patterns. It means limiting access to only what users actually need. And it means understanding that most dangerous attacks don't actually look like attacks. They look like normal. Data exfiltration doesn't start with stolen data. It starts with one believable email and a moment of trust. The earlier it's detected, the less damage it causes. The later it's found, the harder it is to recover from. Understanding how it works is the first step towards stopping it. With that being said, this was a very brief explanation on how data exfiltration looks, and it's actually much more complex. It's the reason there's companies like MBPS that work around the clock and have systems in place to monitor each aspect of businesses. If you're interested in learning more about cybersecurity attacks and can't wait for a deeper dive, then please feel free to book a call with our cybersecurity specialist to talk with you a bit about how to help mitigate the effects of the attack on you or your business. If you can wait, please consider liking if you liked what you saw and subscribing to stay tuned. And if you have questions about something or if I left something out, please throw it in the comments below. Stay protected, and I'll see you later.